Hi, my name is Daphne, and I'm a caseworker in social assistance at LCH.
I'm Alyssa. I work at the outreach office in West Grove for the Domestic Violence Center of Chester County.
Today we're launching the first of several video coffee chats between DVCC and LCH, in which we'll be talking about different subject matters relating to domestic violence. Today's talk is about children and domestic violence.
Okay, so Daphne, what is the impact on children who experience domestic violence directly in the home?
Well, children in homes where one parent is abused may feel fearful and anxious. Their homes no longer feel safe or secure. And actually, we see that children in homes where there is domestic violence, they are at a higher risk of being physically abused themselves. Children that are exposed to domestic violence and children that are abused themselves are impacted almost in the same way. With preschoolers, we may see them going back to bedwetting, thumb sucking, having problems sleeping. We may even see them cry more than usual. School-age children may blame themselves, have lower self-esteem, fewer friends. They may suffer from headaches and stomach aches. They may get poor grades and refrain from participating in school activities. Teenagers may cut classes or even skip school altogether, get into fights at home or at school. They may also have low self-esteem and find it difficult to make and keep friends. They may engage in risky behavior, like having unprotected sex or using drugs or alcohol, or getting into trouble with the law.
Yeah, I think that's definitely, those are some of the things that, it varies depending on how old the kids are. And that sounds like there's a lot of things that we see as people are interacting with children and, children who come from abusive homes that they carry with them throughout their lives too. What are some of the indirect impacts then?
Well, if children witness domestic violence in the home, this abusive behavior becomes normal to them. It makes it difficult for them to see this as unacceptable behavior, and it carries over into their future relationships. They may become victims or the abuser in their own adult relationships. Some studies show that a boy who sees his mother being abused is 10 times more likely to abuse his female partner as an adult. And a girl is 6 times more likely to be abused, to be the victim. There are also long-term health problems to consider, such as depression, anxiety, heart disease, diabetes, and others.
A lot of mental health, I think, gets tied in when people experience abuse in the home as children, or they see it. And a lot of things that we notice as adults are most likely due to that. Even things like dissociative disorders, PTSD, those are things that can also be exacerbated by abuse that children experience.
Yeah, I think it's important that children know that it's not their fault, that domestic violence is wrong, and that there is counseling and support for them, that there's hope.
Yeah, DVCCC definitely offers some children's counseling and individual and group counseling for adults as well.
So, Alyssa, I'm going to ask you a few questions.
Okay.
Why are children with disabilities more vulnerable to domestic violence? And what can we do to protect these children?
So that's a really good question. When kids, any children, but especially children who may have disabilities when they're younger, they may struggle to fully conceptualize or talk about the abuse that's happening. They may not know the appropriate terminology. They may not know how to have a conversation about that with others. And I think that can get really difficult, because if they aren't really recognizing that it's a problem, maybe are desensitized to some of the violence that's happening, and also don't have the words to really talk about it, it can be really difficult to seek help and to find help somewhere else. It also can happen where, children who have disabilities, they're more likely to be abused because taking care of these children may be more difficult. There may be difficult things that are happening, and without appropriate supports, they may not have access to these. They might not have access to things like therapy, or their parents might not have access to things like therapy and different ideas like that. As far as like helping protect these children, I think a lot of it boils down to believing what someone is saying and not just brushing it off, and taking what they're saying, at face value as much as you can. Because a lot of times if a child is coming to you and they're expressing domestic violence, or that some sort of violence is happening in the home, we want to support those kids with what's going on.
Can you share with us what is a PFA, and does this work when people have children?
Yeah, so a protection from abuse order is a type of restraining order here in Pennsylvania. It's for individuals who are survivors either of intimate partner violence or family domestic violence. There are different types of PFAs in PA, but one of the final order of protection that most people would get is good for up to 3 years. That being said, it's a singular part of a safety plan. And I like to remind people of that a lot, because it is a legal process. There is repercussions if somebody were to violate the PFA, but it is also only one part of a safety plan. There's a lot of safety planning that happens when individuals might be leaving an abusive situation.
Alyssa, a PFA sounds complicated and a little intimidating as well.
Yeah. I mean, it can be for sure, but it doesn't have to be. The Domestic Violence Center focuses a lot of our efforts on helping and assisting individuals with the preparation, the filing, and the representation they may need for a protection from abuse order. We can walk them through the whole process. We do have attorneys on staff who would be able to answer any sort of legal questions people may have about it as well. And we also can provide accompaniment to PFA hearings. So we try to, stick with people through the whole process, because, in this most traumatic time when you are seeking out these resources, I think it's important to feel like you're connected to somebody and to connect it to, whether, through our agency, or with others, but we are there and we try to be there for people every step of the way when it comes to PFAs.
All right, so we want to remind our community that they can call DVCCC directly, or they can come to LCH, and we can connect them to one of our counselors. We can connect them directly to DVCCC.